You're listening to the Legends and Lads Cricket Podcast, and we have Prashant Patel, the first flow state cricket coach in the world and an ECB level 4 coach. This is the part 2 of the Prashant Patel interview. You can listen to the part 1 on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, or any other major podcast platforms. This episode is brought to you in collaboration with The Byline, an independent online news platform delivering credible and in depth coverage across business, finance, sports, and more. You can check them out at www.thebyline.in for insightful news and stories that keep you informed. So, Prashant sir, my next question is on the unofficial call or the informal call that we had. You did explain to me about Tendulkar whenever he hit that straight six, zips his hips rotate and he generate. Is he generating the strength from the movement, or how is he hitting that straight six? And I loved that explanation, but I didn't take notes properly, so I think that's why I want you to again answer that.
So what you see with batters, there's lots of different preferences that they have. One of the most important ones that the players really like is what we call the mobile point. Now, the mobile point, there's two different points in the body that it could be. So one, if you imagine, it's actually on your spine, but I'm going to show you what it might look more like at the front. So if you imagine like a belt buckle at the front of your hips, okay, for certain people, they need to point that in the direction that they want power. Now, for other people like myself, it's more where your heart would be, in the middle of your ribs, somewhere in there. So what happens here is, if you think of typical technique when we were children, we're always taught to drive very side on and hit the ball, right? And if you watch Sachin Tendulkar, when he faced the quickest bowlers in the planet, he would punch beautifully from a really side on position. But if you go and watch him hit a straight six, every single time he hit a straight six and wants more power, you'll see his back foot rotates and the hips then point straight down the ground as he hits the shot. Now, lots and lots of famous batters do this. So if you see Mitali Raj as female batters, for instance, she used to do it. Virat Kohli does this. Steve Smith does it. Joe Root does it. Babar Azam does it. Lots of the world's best do it. But the trouble is, when people... So I got to meet Babar Azam very, very briefly, and we were talking about power hitting. And he was always told, like, keep your shape when you hit the ball. But the trouble is, he wasn't transmitting as much power as he probably could do. But if he allowed his body to actually rotate, he would smash that ball probably another 15, 20 yards. So the thing that's really misunderstood is, when coaches see that the hips point forward when people are driving, they think you're going to square up and you're going to nick and you're going to edge. But some people need it for power. So a really simple thing you can do with people is just get them to imagine. I say to players, grab a bat and do a straight drive, but try and imagine you're hitting it for 8. And by 8, I mean not just the boundary, 60 yards, 120 yards. You're trying to hit that distance. Now, what you're really looking for when they do this is watch the shoulders. So when they step forward, if the front shoulder dips a little and the back goes back, then they drive, the front shoulder should finish higher than the back shoulder. Now we're using all the upper body muscles to hit that ball. If they've done that and their back foot had to turn and the hips point forward, you need to allow them to rotate the hips. It's really important you allow them to do it. And a really good example of this, so we talked a little about Sonny and his bowling, less hip-shoulder separation. It actually links to hip-shoulder separation. When it comes to batting, I've just lost my track of thought. Oh, yeah, I've got it. If you watch Rohit Sharma pull, have you ever seen Rohit Sharma pull a ball? He looks like he has 10 days to hit a ball. It's absolutely amazing. Now, if you watch him really carefully and then watch a video of Brendan McCullum, so Brendan McCullum needs more hip-shoulder separation. What Brendan does is he'll turn the back foot, the hips will point forward, but the shoulder stays side on, the hands go out to point all the way around in a circle until he's about to hit the ball. Then he flicks the wrists, which biomechanically it's perfect. But to do it, it probably takes you 4 times the amount of time that it takes Rohit. And what Rohit does, the hands will start over the right shoulder. And if he begins to turn the back foot, the chest, the hands already move forward. I haven't even moved my hands, but because we're rotating the hips in the lower half, we're already closer to the ball. So what he does is he starts from the bottom like a tornado, Then the hips rotate and the hands only have to travel 10, 15 centimeters to get to the ball. And then he can use the pace of the ball and hit you for six. So what you'll see is if you compare Rohit's version with Brendan McCullum, you'll see a massive time difference. At the minute, everyone's talking about, when they talk about power hitting, bat speed. I don't know if you've heard that, but look, yeah, loads of people are obsessed with bat speed. But one of the important data that you can get from these little gadgets you can put on bats is time to impact. How long does it take me from my backlift to get to the ball? And the more efficient it is, the more time we have to hit the ball. So what you'll notice with people that drive a little bit more like Tendulkar, that kind of pull might work better.
Yes. So you did talk about backlift, and the first name that comes to my mind is AB de Villiers. Like he has a high backlift, and I used to follow him back when I used to be a batter. Like I used to bat like him, imitate him. When he has a high backlift, is it like he's having more time to play the ball, or analyze him?
So this is where it also gets interesting. If you watch someone like some people have very low ones, but if we go into high ones, Owen Morgan used to bat with the hands almost by his back shoulder. Okay. Now he's a very interesting profile because what they do, he's like Kevin Peterson, bats like that as well if he needs to. They're front chain. So in the upper half, we have dominant muscle chains throughout the body, and they're like a spiral as they go through the body. So what we would call them walking bottom players, and I'll explain that in a second. What they can do is almost go from A to B. So they don't need to sort of start from the floor, go back, and then forward. They'll just start with the bat up and go straight to the ball whenever they want to hit the ball. They've got the ability to do that. But pretty much 90% of the batters that you'll see are walking top batters. Okay. And what they need is rhythm. So their back chain. So to use one set of muscles, what they need to do is first back lift, then they can use the front chains to go and hit the ball. Okay. So it's almost like a rubber band. They've got to pull the rubber band before they can let go. Whereas other people can just leave it pulled and just let go when they want to fire.
I think that is more like a baseball act.
Yeah. And even baseballers, they'll do it slightly different. You'll see some will just start with the bat further back and again just deliver it. But others will sort of be near their head, go back as they step, and then go and hit. So these are the two sets of muscle chains working very differently. But if you watch batters, I think the easiest way for you to spot it is if you watch your Tendulkars, your Sunil Gavaskars, all of these guys, Steve Smith, very narrow stances. If you look at them from point, their feet are narrow, okay, probably about torso width apart, let's say. The legs, if you watch it, they don't bend the knees much. Okay, what they generally do is they bend more at the hips. And if they bend more at the hips, the head falls over to the offside. So quite a lot of times they have to trigger and the front foot goes a little bit over to the offside. Okay. Now, if you look at more your Babar Azam, I didn't realise he was this wide until I saw him from side on. Graham Smith, I don't know if you remember him from South Africa. Owen Morgan, Kevin Peterson. These guys generally have their feet outside of shoulder width apart. And if you watch their knees, it bends quite a lot. These are hamstring dominant people. So what they do is when we think of moving to the ball, they push off the floor to move. So if I want to move forward, what they do as a right-hander, they bend their knees, they pinch their knees in a little bit, okay, and they push off the back leg to move forward. Whereas more often than not, we were taught, take your left foot, your front foot, and just step and move it there. These people transfer the weight completely differently. They push off the opposite leg to move, and when you do it, you'll feel all your weight goes into the ball. You absolutely destroy the ball when you do it. So there was a very famous, well, I say very famous, but a famous-ish batting coach called Mark O'Neill who introduced that in the UK. And he was teaching everyone to do it. He taught Brendan McCullum, Ross Taylor, and a whole bunch of the Kiwis and some of the Australian batters to do it. And their numbers just went through the roof once they started doing it.
I think I have a very interesting question to ask you, sir. This is about Virat Kohli. So he's been no, no debate about him being one of the finest batters cricket has ever seen. But lately, before he retired from test matches, I think he had that problem of poking those offside balls. So what was the technique or I'm sure you would have analyzed him. So what made him poke at those offside, fourth stump, fifth stump line? So what do you think from a mental aspect of it and also technical aspect of it?
So we'll go into technical first because that's always where people seem to start. Okay, so he met, I think it was Bob Woolmer ages ago, and Bob Woolmer talked to him. I think it was in his book, and he mentioned, Virat, you need to open your shoulder to get your right shoulder 1 inch further forward. Now he's a really interesting one because hypothetically he's a right aiming shoulder. If you watch people very, very carefully, and do this with your family, wherever you are at home, when you watch people stand, their weight will either be slightly forward or slightly back. Okay, this is to do with the pelvis. So the pelvis either slightly tilts forward, that will shift our weight forward. And when we walk, what happens is we create an imbalance. It's almost like we're going to fall and then our feet catch up. The opposite people, what happens is they lean slightly back because of the pelvis. Their weight's a bit more on their heels and midfoot, and they're a bit more flat-footed when they move. Okay, but someone like Virat, what happens is his weight will be more on the front. And when you look at him, or anyone when you have a conversation, you'll notice one shoulder is always ahead of the hip line. Okay, so for me, when I'm relaxed, you'll notice that my right one is more ahead. Okay, and if you watch people's noses very carefully when they talk to you, very rarely does the nose point exactly to the middle of you. Normally it will point to one side or the other side. So they're always looking through one eye. Okay, so whenever I'm coaching people, what you'll see is if the posture from shoulder down is the same and the nose changes, they're confused. Okay, so that's a very quick way to understand people. And if you suddenly see that the weight changes, the shoulder changes, and the head changes, they're now learning or they're tired. So very quickly you can start reading how people are. Now with Virat, what's very important for him is he's got a couple of parameters. So number one, he likes his weight a little bit more forward on his balls of the feet, let's say. Number two, he needs his right shoulder slightly ahead of the hips, just slightly. Number three, he has a preference called horizontal. Now horizontal people, you've got, I don't know if you've ever seen, you'll see it with Tendulkar and you'll see it with Joe Root. You know when they drive, their front elbow will go beautifully towards where what they want to drive, and the back forearm hides behind the bat. So it's almost like there's a beautiful 180-degree line between their forearms. They look amazing to watch, textbook. If you watch someone like Steve Smith, for instance, his left elbow might go to the target, and his right elbow, you'll see it on the inside of the bat. And Virat's actually got this kind of preference. So what batting coaches normally do, they'll say, Virat, hang on a minute, get your bat over the stumps, tidy it all up, get everything in a line. The trouble with this is the back forearm gets stuck behind the rib cage and can't go straight at the ball. It's much easier to flash at balls outside off where you're not close to the ball. If you watch him in pretty good nick, what he'll do, instead of the bat going over the stumps, it will go slightly more out to like first slip. And as you begin to do it, your rear elbow goes a bit straighter. Now, the great thing, if you really analyse Steve Smith, Virat Kohli at their best, anything on fourth stump, they hit it more often than anyone else, because if you watch the backlift, the hands at some point, I know Steve loops it around, the hands will go to the wicketkeeper and then go in a straight line down fourth stump towards the ball. And then they place the ball to where they want it to go. So their margin for error is like 3 foot. They can get the timing wrong and still make contact. If you watch him in bad form, where the hands are very close and you've got that forearm behind, the bat now starts going in a path diagonally across the ball. Now his timing has to be immaculate. So when he's in really good form, he uses basic geometry. We could call it batting geometry if you want. It's something that Bob Woolmer used to talk about. So if a ball is coming straight at me and my bat is vertical going straight back along the line of the ball, I've almost got 100% chance of striking the ball. And that's what these guys do that allows them to hit the ball more often, more cleanly, and get lots and lots of runs. So I think part of it is the technical side. Part of it is coaches are telling you this is a fix, but they've actually got to understand their own games. When things work, what did I really do? Right? And also the mental clutter. If you imagine him, if you were Virat Kohli tomorrow, you've got a child now. right? I just saw that they were out in London the other day taking the young one out and stuff like that. You're married to a Bollywood actress who's super famous, right? You're trying to get away from lots of people and live a normal life. It's very tricky. Then you've got the whole weight of a whole nation like Tendulkar did on you. Every time you go out and bat, you're supposed to deliver. There's a lot of things going on in your mind. And so for people to just say it's a technical problem, quite often the problems, whenever I talk to pros, internationals and stuff, it's very rarely the technical problem. It's more in their head, how they were feeling, they were nervous. So there's a really weird fact, okay? Hopefully this kind of helps you. A conscious thought. So imagine Jofra Archer's bowling 92 miles an hour at me now. For me to see the ball and go, oh, it's short, I'm going to pull it, will take 0.60 seconds to do. I don't know which study that came from, but it came from a study. It takes 0.38 seconds for that ball to reach me. So it's not humanly possible for me to see the ball, pick a shot, play the shot. Not going to happen, right? But if you listen to all those people, whenever I chat to them, they'll be like, I was thinking about that last ball. I was thinking about trying to hit in an overs time, I'm going to hit that guy. They're distracted. So in their mind, they're thinking about the past or the future, but they're not here and present and mindful for the next ball. So a lot of the work we do is around creating them a routine that makes them mindful and refocus on the ball. So for instance, as a batter, if you hear him on interviews, Virat talks about, when I'm batting, I bat really well when I watch the ball. Okay, and that sounds like a really simple thing to do, but he's also a narrow focus person. So a narrow focus person, when we look at vision, the first 3 to 5 degrees ahead of them, they can look in such detail, really good detail. Okay, and then they've got peripheral vision after. So someone like Kevin Peterson, England were playing Sri Lanka, this is years ago, and the England players were really struggling with facing Dilhara Fernando. Fernando had like a slower ball. And Kevin Peterson's like, oh, it's really easy. You can see his grip at the top of the mark. And everyone was like, that's a load of rubbish. We can't see that. What are you talking about? But he had narrow vision. He was able to really focus on a specific point and get the detail. And other people like myself are broad focused. We look everywhere. We're kind of looking at the forearms change, the wrists change, the knee, all these things. And then we go to central vision to see the ball and track the ball. So for certain people, when coaches say, watch the ball, for Virat, that'll work. For me, I'll be useless, or other people that are broad vision. So the more we start educating the coaches, like, this is, the positives of this player, this is how their brain works, this is how to do it. Please don't mess with these cues, because even if you change his trigger, that's going to mess him up. Or if you change his focus in his mind, that's going to mess him up as well. So for Virat, sometimes it could just be the mind being a bit distracted. You don't know till you ask him. But sometimes it's these technical bits, because when things go wrong, everyone goes back to technique instead of seeing what's actually going on up here.
Sir, my next question is about, I think Rishabh Pant if you would have, I'm sure you would have worked on his or analyzed him. I think he would have been the toughest player for you to analyze, because he has, at least for a layman to look at his batting technique, we say he doesn't have a proper, this is a standard for me. Like, yes, the movement of his brain and certain reactions, how his brain reacts to certain things will be there, because he's a human being after all. But I'm sure he would have given you a tough job. So how do you feel, Rishabh Pant bats? I would say he has some technique, but it's difficult to analyze him.
So I think he's a brilliant example, because what happens is you've got your conventional batters that are really pretty, then you've got effective players. So, if you're looking at someone like him, he's a complete game changer. But I would hypothetically think that he's a rhythmical guy and a very specific profile. So these kind of people, it's almost like, imagine him being a lion, right? You don't want to cage these things up. When they've got these amazing strengths to what they do, you've got to let them run loose with things. So certain people are very adventurous, and what you really want them to do is understand, like, their game and how to sort of minimize the risk a little bit, so they can still be flamboyant with their shots, but start being a little bit more selective around the risk level. So is it worth ball one doing that, of someone in particular? Or maybe there's a low risk option just for now, given the context of the game. But I think he'd be a fascinating person to pick the brain of, because I reckon if you went very, very technical with him, he'd get nowhere near the kind of numbers you're looking for. So we've actually got one of the England wicket keeping coaches. He looks after 15s to the Lions, and he's got like a love-hate relationship with Rishabh Pant, because he's got amazing gloves. He does everything the way that I don't want him to do it. He's got high hips, and doesn't move his head and feet where you want it to go. But he was like, it works in those conditions. It works. How it might work somewhere else is very different. But he's very much of the mindset that as long as it's effective, and this is where lots of coaches are moving towards, is it effective? That's really number one. Okay, so there's no point. You would have seen players that look $1 million in the nets. They've got the prettiest driver. You put them on a pitch, they get a duck. Can't score a run because they're so thinking about my left elbow has to go here and here. What do you think goes through the mind of Rishabh Pant though when he bats? Do you think he's worried about his left elbow, right elbow, toes pointing here? He's just a free spirit. And sometimes you've got to say, like, certain people within a team, you're going to give them the license to have that free spirit. And if they come off, that's a game changer. He's going to win you a game, no worries. So sometimes, if you look at like the England selections, there was a guy, Jamie Smith, and Jamie Smith. So you had Ben Foakes was the England keeper at that time, and the thought process there is, if Ben bats at 7, he'll still average 40. He could score some runs, but his strike rate is slower. And they saw a guy that's playing in the second 11 at Surrey, much younger age group. He's doing England age groups, whatever. And they were like, he's a game changer. If we put him in for the same amount of balls, he'll get 70, 80 with the tail. And they put him now ahead of Ben Foakes. So they've gone, actually, can we just get these game changers in? You've got all these guys, some of them are being picked out of nowhere. Like Sonny Baker, he's just had a very good 100. He's been hit for like like an English record or something, in his ODI debut and T20 debut. Didn't do too great, but they've seen something in him and they back him. If you look at Indian selections, for instance, some of these players are amazing. You would never drop that. What's his name? Abhishek Sharma, was it the opening batter? Like he could get you so far ahead in the game. Why would you tell him, can you now just bat pretty and go to run a ball? Because he's literally wiped loads of these games apart just by himself. So sometimes you've got to say, we'll take a risk with a few people. We can afford to do it because we're actually going to take the game completely away from someone. And I think Rishabh's probably one of those. But if you had 11 Rishabhs, you've probably got a bit of a problem.
Yes, so I want to ask you, I want to make a comparison about how the times have changed and how the batting has evolved. So, if you would see in the 60s, 70s, or I would say until the 2000s, the batting was around one style, I would say, because the T20 cricket was not yet formed, like it didn't start yet. And the batting was more test oriented, I would say, and even the ODIs were more test oriented. But now the test matches have become T20 oriented. That is what I feel. So, what do you think has gone through this change? Like, how do you think the players have changed? Because each player, I believe, should be like a Cheteshwar Pujara or a Hanma Vihari. So those kind of players also should survive in this generation, as well as we should have explosive players like Rishabh Pant and Abhishek Sharma or Rinku Singh. But now it has become like a hybrid of them. They both coexist, and you see test matches have become more interesting and people are liking the change. But do you feel that as a conservative part of cricket, some people are like the test cricket where how Pujara plays, he hits 200 in like 400 balls. So that kind of cricket, is slowly slipping away. So do you feel that in a few years, maybe 2 3 decades, that kind of cricket won't exist only? So
I would like to add something else to this question, sir. So maybe I could ask on top of his question, maybe like say a player has played some T20 series now and he has to go into the test cricket. So the techniques differ. The way he's going to approach the two formats will be different. So you can talk about, I mean, you can base this, my question on top of this and answer maybe.
Right. So these are really good questions. Okay. So I'm almost going to throw back a question at either of you, whoever wants to take this. Okay. I want you to imagine in your head, I'm going to bowl a ball. So a hole over at you. Okay. And if I get you out, you give me £50,000. Okay. How would you bat those six balls? And I'm just bowling medium pacers at you. Okay. What shots would you play for £50,000? If you get out, you've got to give me that money. What kind of shots would you play?
Well, I would defend, yeah, because I don't want to play risky. Because if I get out, I have to pay. So I will try to protect myself as much as I can.
But I think the great bit here is just think in your head. You might leave the ball if it's missing the stumps. You might just block the ball. But if you think of the movements you're going to make, your hands might just move forward a little bit and pat the ball. Okay. But if we change that question just a little bit and we say, I'm going to bowl six balls. And if you score 15 runs off this, I will give you 50,000. There is nothing to lose here. You've only got a chance to win 50,000. How are you now going to bat?
Yeah, now I feel my approach will change obviously because now I need to score runs and there is no like if I lose my wicket it's over. So I will yeah go for looking for the boundaries or maximums. That's how I will approach it. Yes.
So if you think of the shots now, would you have a backlift now? You probably would, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
Right? You'd have a big backlift. You'd probably have a big follow through now, right? We haven't changed your technique, but this is the mind now. Now, if you think of people going into Test cricket, back in the day, if you put 9 slips there and a quick comes on, the batter's just thinking, oh, don't nick one. That's all they're thinking is don't get hit and don't nick one, right? Now the batters are thinking, oh, I've got 330 degrees to score runs now. I can just knock you here, all day long. So that wonderful ball you bowl line and the length, they can just push it into space, and they're now looking at spaces and where they can score instead of how I will get out. So I think the mindset has changed quite a lot. But if you think of every single successful team, so if you think of who would not want Rahul Dravid on their team, realistically, in any Indian team, in any part of history, I reckon you need one of those in your test team. When stuff isn't going your way, he will see that through. He will go through a brick wall for you and make sure you put some sort of score up. I was just watching him and Laxman, when they hit that amazing, when they were following on and Laxman got 281 and he got the 100 odd. It's amazing. You need people with grit and all sorts of different, mental aspects, technical aspects and things they bring. Because at certain points, when you're 5 down for 150 in a test match, Bazball, as we play in England, they'll send someone in to just whack it everywhere and change the game. But then you could always have the guy that just goes dot, dot, dot. If you look at India-Pakistan yesterday, and I know it's a T20, I can't believe Pakistan dropped Babar Azam. I wouldn't have opened with him, but I would have said, just in case, because your batting unit isn't that strong, put him in a floating number. If we've lost a few wickets, let him just bat. And he could just rebuild an innings for you instead of just going pop, pop, pop and losing. I think every team just needs a bit more balance. And Test cricket, I can't imagine people are going to get rid of your Viharis and Pujaras because there is definitely a time and place for them. You look at when they went to Australia and he got absolutely peppered, Pujara, but he was just wearing bowlers down. Imagine you're bowling 90 miles an hour and you're into your 18th over of the day. You're tired. You're just draining these guys out of energy, and then someone else can take advantage of it. So the great bit about Test cricket is you can wear people down in different ways, whether it's scoring runs, just blocking them up, frustrate them, and all sorts of things. I think you need a whole mix of players, and those kind of players are absolutely amazing.
Yes, sir. And this question is more of like about the related to the injuries of the players because this is a rough analysis that I have done, and I'll be taking the bowlers as examples, but you can also talk about the batsmen in this aspect. But I believe the injuries rate has increased from the 90s if you observe because if you see the bowlers, the deadly bowlers of the West Indies cricket like Curtly Ambrose or Joel Garner, or if you take Richard Hadley, Kapil Dev, one of the all of them were one of the greatest fast bowlers of the time, and they had long careers. They bowled all day long, and they had very less injuries. But if you compare it to bowlers these days, if you take example of Bumrah or Bhuvneshwar Kumar or Hardik Pandya, all these bowlers, they haven't even reached that level of those bowlers, but they have already had injuries early in their career, and now there is something like workload management and those factors. So do you think, what is a change you see, like compared to those era and now? Because I believe the action is same, the bowling is same, the format is same, and I believe now even we are playing less test cricket compared to those days. So I believe there is something that is changed, but it all looks same to me. So what is your analysis on this?
This is probably the most interesting bit, because if you look at, even with our own children, we've got ECB regulations of how many overs they can bowl in a week, and it counts even in training. But I was chatting to Stefan a while ago, and we were talking about, actually, are they bowling fit? Every single bowler, like, instead of saying you can only bowl 5 overs, three spells of that in a day, one child might not be physically strong, one might be an absolute beast. And actually, there's nothing replicates the bowling action. I don't know if you've ever noticed, you take a month off bowling, you come back, you bowl, whatever warm up you did, the next day, like, every part of your body aches. You're like, I didn't even know that part of my body existed. It just hurts. Nothing can replicate bowling. And I think at a certain point, you've got to work out, like, yourself, how much is too much and how much is not enough. Because, like you said, those kind of players would have come over and played a county season here. They would have played 5 days, out of 7, county cricket all the way through the summer, then gone and played their international stuff and domestic stuff. They're bowling all year round, but they were actually bowling fit pretty much the whole time. So I almost feel that a lot of people are probably under bowled. Some people might be over bowled. But I think they've got to monitor these things and actually work out, like, what it is for different people. But it also links to techniques, because these days, lots of these biomechanics comes into all of it, and people will be like, you must brace your front leg. And some people, the way that they land their foot and align their body, it's not actually safe for them to do it. So I don't know if you've ever seen Andrew Flintoff bowl. Did you ever see Flintoff bowl?
Yeah.
Right. So when he bowled, his front foot as a right-hander slightly turned in towards leg slip fine leg. And it's probably the most dangerous position for the front leg to land, because what happens is, when you actually brace your leg and try and rotate your hips, the amount of pressure it puts on the ankle in there is absolutely insane. So lots of people that I see, they'll try and get them to brace their front leg, and they don't realise the knock-on effect of the rest of the body. I'll see some people are almost 90 degrees bending over the spine and all sorts of horrific things, but the coach has just understood, to get bowl faster, you need a braced front leg. And when I see stuff like in Stephen Jones's sessions, the amount of detail they put in to strengthen the knee joint, the ankle joint, and internal rotation of the hips and all sorts of bits, none of this is done anywhere. So nobody's body is really strong enough to do certain elements of this. They're just taught the technical bits. What's really important to understand is, you've got your technique, but the body has to be strong enough to be able to hold and go through positions. And that's really important. So I think a lot of coach education in fast bowling globally, like, I've been to all sorts of people to try and understand fast bowling in more detail, what they're teaching, why. I would say he's the closest I've seen. And Aaron in Australia as well is very good at working out, because he's got a physio background as well. Why do injuries happen? How do we limit certain movements from happening and stuff like that? But I don't think enough people have that level of knowledge. They're just looking at, can I brace the front leg, delay the arm? Good luck to you. And if you bowl three times in a year, but 100 miles an hour, great. But actually, we need a bowler to be on staff bowling a whole season. So there are some counties, I won't say who they are, but they actually get 9 fast bowlers. And they're like, if these 3 break down, it's not a problem, because the other 3 will come in. And so that's a pretty poor way of looking at stuff. You've got to look after your players a lot better.
Yes, sir. And this will bring you to the end of the part 2 of the interview with Prashant Patel. Thank you, sir, for coming. It was wonderful hosting you. I would like to name you the encyclopedia of cricket. because I some things were really bounces to me. Uh, I think I need to go back to the recording when I edit it and hear, because I feel it is. I'm so amazed, and thank you for coming to the Legends and Lads Cricket podcast. We want to have you for a part 3 and probably a part 4 following. But yeah, thank you for coming today, sir.
Thank you ever so much for having me. Really appreciate it.